Evening. My name is Renee Dina, and today I'm going to be presenting my project 4 for my CS 4650 class. In this project, we are asked to create a machine learning algorithm that essentially will help us trade stocks in the stock market for us. That said, we're going to look at our project itself, and here it is. So the way I chose to do this project is essentially to break it down into 4 weeks. We're given like a sum allocation of 250,000 for spending. So I chose for each week to divide that into 25% of spending allocation. So that said, I also opted to use a different method each week. And you will see as we go down the actual notebook. I'll go ahead and explain that in a bit. But for the first week, I opted to go for a high risk, high reward type system where the risk was higher. That is where I would allocate the 25% of that 250,000 for a potentially higher gains. Um, so yeah, let's get started. So pretty much, we import the necessary libraries. As far as the stocks that I chose to examine for this particular week, I just chose 10 random ones, 5 of them with a market cap greater than 200 billion, and 5 of them with a market cap lower than 100 billion. So again, these are just random, but these were Apple, Tesla, Disney, Intel, BKNG, Nitty, Backup, Sky, Burlington, and EW. So yeah, so basically here I downloaded the data. I chose to go back up to 2015 to the present day, November of 2021. So we go ahead and download that data. Here we just print the tail, print the head, make sure that we got the data that we needed. Right here we see more in depth using the table describe function. As we scroll down, we'll see the right here we have the calculate stock returns, which is essentially the return rate formula for the stocks that we chose. So there's that. This is essentially like at the heart of the this method for the week. We keep scrolling, and then we have our scatter matrix, which essentially just helps us visualize the data in a simpler, easier to read way. We keep scrolling, and then we chart the actual data. So we put that in a stock risk chart where we actually examine the standard deviation of each stock. Right here, we examine the average returns for each stock using the returned equation, which again, it's this one right here. And right off the bat, you can see that we have top contenders, that being the Tesla, Burlington, and EW. But again, we like to visualize data in the simplest form. So again, we go ahead and chart it. So right here we have our risk versus return. Yeah, so our X is going to be our return scores, and then I pretty much put this side to side. That way we can see the difference between each one. But taking it even further, here I just stacked. It's the same chart, but I just stacked them on top of one each other again for readability. So right here in the green we have the risk of return, and in the red we have the average of return. So again, like I said, the top contenders being the EW, Burlington, and Tesla, right? Here we just put on a nice little table, and using these return ratios, we put that in a plot chart. So right here we have again the risk versus the expected return. We see Tesla all the way out here, as predicted by our model here. Then we have Burlington, and then we have EW. So right off the bat, again, the concept of this method was to allocate all our money in higher risk, high reward type stocks. And like I said, right here we have a few contenders already. One of them being Tesla, Burlington, EW, Apple, and BKNG. And again, here I chose to only invest or allocate 25% into, I believe was let me see here. Yeah, pretty much the stocks with the higher risk, right? So we keep scrolling down to week 1. I pretty much broke it down into percent. So within these 10 stocks, they get 25%, but depending on the higher risk ratio, that's where I broke it down to. So if we look here, we have our trade history. So total funds allocated for week 1, 25%, which it wasn't 25% to the dot, but pretty close as we could get it, which was 61,348 total allocated for this week. So we have our performance history shown here. If we keep scrolling down, we see that our start for the week was 250,000. we ended the week with 200 and it looks clear like 853. So right off the bat, we ended with a profit. Um, it's down here. Let me see. So yeah, like I said, we ended with a profit. In terms of percent, that profit was 0.34 of that 250. Uh, in terms of fiat, I guess, we ended up with a $853 profit for week one. And here's a performance chart as it shows. Now moving on to week two, this is pretty much where we get to the nit and grit of the actual project itself. Here we actually have some machine learning application implemented. So and the method that we used here was a LSTM, or short for long short-term memory. Um, so here pretty much I use the same via allocation as I did in week one, where I'm gonna allocate 25% of the initial 250 for investing. Again, I chose 10 stocks, 10 random ones. For this one, actually though, out of the 10 stocks, 25% would only be allocated to 5 of the stocks, depending on what the model produces, and shows us this is the best move. And one last thing I'd like to mention is and for this actual model, we only use the last 60 days of data per stock. So continuing on, first thing we did was import the libraries. For this for easy viewing, I chose Apple, right? So this is the data pulled from Apple. Here we got it. Then we visualize the actual chart going back to 2015, like I said, keeping it simple, 2015 to 2021. Next, I created a data frame with the closed column, and then I converted that to a NumPy array, which essentially pulls out the number of the rows in the data to train the actual LSTM model. Sorry about that. So I scaled the data, created a training set for it, split it to its respective X and Y train data. We put that data into an array. We reshape the data. And this is the actual building of the actual neuron for the model. We compiled the model. Here we train the model. Right here it has the 10 epochs, but I really use 150. The reason it's currently at 10 is because I went back and used it for to test something. But we did use 150 epochs. Just thought I'd mention that. And then moving on, we created a test data, which transforms to a NumPy array. And then we shape it again, of course. Then we get the predicted values, and here we get our RMSE, which was 3.911. Like any data, we want to visualize it. So here we just put into a simple chart. As you can see, we have the actual data from 2015 to 2020. Looks like the start of 2020, and our model predicts an uptrend, a super high uptrend. So again, this is for Apple, the Apple ticker. So I tested this with all 10 stocks, and whichever one gave me the highest uptrend potential is the ones I chose to allocate the 25% into. So those were SPY, or the S&P 500, GameStop, Zoom Video. What's this one? Micron Technology, and Nvidia. So trying to hit as close as 25 as possible. Total funds allocated for this week was 62,998. So here we see from the previous week we're at 250,853 to start off week two. We ended the week two in 25,000. Wait, was this? Sorry about that. Yeah, 252071. Again, it's all right here. So we essentially came up on another profit. And in terms of percent, that profit was 0.48, which turned out to be 12,018. So, yeah, week one we had a profit of 858. Week two we had a profit of 12,000. And here's our performance chart. And pretty much that was week two. Now moving on to week three. So moving on to week three, I really didn't want to steer away from the LSTM model, so I chose to use a variation of that, which is the stacked long short-term memory. Again, as week one and as in week two, I chose to only allocate 25% of the initial 250,000. Again, putting it only into 5 stocks for this week. So yeah, let's get into it. As always, you import the necessary libraries. Here, I for this example, I use a ticker PYPL or PayPal. So just print the data, make sure we have the right data on here. I scale the data, I plot the data, make sure everything's good. Uh, um, so yeah, we keep moving down. I then split the data into its train and test, or its weights, in other words. Here, I ask for the size of the data, so we get that. We see the actual data. Then, using that data, we convert it into an array to use in matrices, which I'll get into later. Again, we're just reshaping it and gain the size, so we can put into its samples, its time steps, and its features required for the LSTM model. Here we essentially create the model and get a summary of the in a sense get a breakdown of the sequentials here. Here we actually train it. Here I believe we use 100 epochs. So we do a prediction check. And we transform it back to the original model, and then we calculate the RMSE, which was 88.76. Here we output the test data for the RMSE, which turned out to be 227.83. So we want to visualize that, so we go ahead and plot that. That's what that looks like. Super crazy, super crazy. And then pretty much get a little output display of it. Then we have and we try to demonstrate the prediction for the next 10 days, right? For the model, which was here, again, PayPal. So we let that do its magic. And here I start graphing it as it's working itself. And you can see, it looks like it was on a downtrend as it was. The model actually predicts that it continues on a downtrend before it reaches a correction here. And in the final graph, it predicts just again the same thing. It continues on the downtrend, and it eventually reaches a correction. So, yeah, that's pretty much the model. Here are our trade executions, which again we allocate 25% of it. Here we allocate it into SLVM, LMT, Disney, PayPal, and UPST. So total funds allocated for week 3 was 63,076. And here we have from week 2 that our starting funds was 252,071, and then we ended week 3 with 245,296, which essentially puts us in the negative. In terms of percent, we went negative 2.72 for this week, which translates to negative 6,774 for week 3. Yeah, so this is essentially where we lose the momentum. Here is a performance chart for that. And now we'll move on to week 4. So in week 4, I was from the previous weeks, I was pretty content with the model. We had 2 good weeks, 1 bad week. So I thought maybe it just really was a bad week. We continue with the model. So for week 4, I thought I'd just keep it simple, and I'll just try to kind of enhance from the 2 previous weeks. Not overdo it, not change it too much. So again, it's just in terms of keeping it simple. Here I just try to add a acceleration bands implementation. Yeah, so in starting, we import the necessary libraries. Here we use a ticker BABA or Alibaba. And make sure we have the data that we need. Confirm it. There that is. We plot it, and again, this is just bands. So basically, the closer the lower band is to the upper band, that will signal for us to buy the stock. So here. Okay, so here you can see the red is our lower bands. The orange is our upper bands. We do have a middle band, but it's kind of hard to see. But our actual stock data displayed for Alibaba is in green here. Thick line in the middle. Yeah, so we just pretty much display our data to visualize it. And again, here we have it in the legend. We have our lower band, our middle band, and our upper band. So the indicator for this actual method was that once that lower band reaches the middle band, or the middle band reaches the upper band, that will trigger a buy signal for us. So yeah, going into our trade executions, Here we opted to purchase 5 stocks. Those being, let me zoom in really quick. Strand Company, Brainstorm Cell, Thermopedics, Alibaba, Taya, and Focus Universal. So again, try to keep it as close as 25% to that initial 250,000. The funds that we allocate here is 64,838. So we keep scrolling here. We could see that from week 3, our initial starting balance was 245,296. And the ending funds for week 4 was 248,124, which puts us in the positive once again. Here our percent gain in this case was 1.14%, which translates to 2,828 in the green, or in the positive, I should say. And here is the performance chart for that. So that is pretty much it. A different implementation for each week is a route I chose to take. We are negative, I believe, from the initial 250,000, but not by a lot. So yeah, that is pretty much the model that I opted for, and hope you enjoyed.